distant.
I'm home again in life. Cups unlicensed.
Hey everybody, I'm Amy.
I'm Paul.
And this is the Comics Hall, coming to you live from Wednesday, May 20th.
Yes, live
Woo.
from I'm like laying on top of all my comics. That's what
Paul
this looks like.
Paul is in comics right now.
I am. I can't get out. I don't know what's happened. Especially with all of the reading that we've done for this show. My brain is all espionage. I think I'm gonna go and steal all my own stuff back from my office once we get back there, also known as just taking my stuff back. But
Paul is going to defect from the comics show and become a renegade agent. Thank you guys so much for joining us this week. We've got a lot of cool stuff to talk about this week. If you were following us in the Let Your Geek Sideshow Facebook group or on social, you did notice we are doing a Black Widow themed show today to kind of continue on the movie preparedness. From last week we covered Wonder Woman, and this is kind of an everything you need to know before Black Widow. We also have some comic book news, as we always like to start the show, and then Paul's going to tell us about a little giveaway we've got going.
We sure do. I sure am, and we sure do. We have a giveaway, of course, that's going to be coming at the end of the show for the quarter scale nano gauntlet from this real small indie film that came out, I think, last year. It's called Avengers Endgame. And how this is going to work is halfway during the show, I'm going to give you guys a code word. Now, that code word accounts for 1,000 extra entries into this Gleam contest. Gleam is where you guys will go to to start getting in on the action of this giveaway, and then we will drop the link a little bit later in the show. So make sure when we give the code word away, which I think is fitting, a code word for our show today, when we give the code word away about halfway throughout the show, we will you'll be able to take that, go to the Gleam link, and hopefully win that quarter scale nano gauntlet, guys. It's great.
Practice your espionage. We'll chime in with the secret operative code word. Wow, has it only been a year since Avengers Endgame?
I think it's been. We're probably at about a year now. Let us know in the comments because we are
bizarre.
doing a show right now. So if someone can tell us the exact date that Avengers Endgame came out, I thought it was like May 20th. Is it not May 20th?
I thought it was like
16th?
May
4th.
I thought they like came really close to Star Wars Day. But anyways, wow. Continuing on with comic book news, the big overall branching thing is that comics are continuing to return. This is the second week of Marvel's digital exclusives. I know that Star is out this week. I think Ghost Spider, some of those titles that they were primarily launching as a digital release before they hit the stores. Don't forget, we updated you guys last week that Marvel's digital shop is closing in June. You can blend it with your Comixology account if you have one open, but you will not be able to purchase digital issues through Marvel beginning June 2nd. But DC Comics is still shipping, and actually Image Comics shipped this week. I think some more of the publishers have come back. If you are in a place where you are safe and able to do curbside pickup with your local store, consider calling them, consider paying ahead for your books until you can get them. But there are comics shipping back to the stores soon. I know the big release for this week is actually Ludocrats, which was supposed to come out on April 1st from Image Comics. That's the Kieran Gillen book that took about 12 years to get published. So that's pretty cool. That's a nice sign to see that books are returning and solicitations are coming out. July looks to be the month that the publishers are really hoping to ramp their events back up.
Get back to normal. I miss the smell of normal books because everyone knows I don't read unless it's a comic book. I can only read in like thought bubbles. So if they go this way, it's a no-go for me. But someone on Instagram, which is a good which is a good reminder, because guys, we are coming to you live on Instagram. We are on Twitch, Periscope, YouTube, Facebook. Our Facebook group, Let Your Geek Side Show, which is an amazing group and community. We've got 30,000 members in it now. So a lot of geeks there. But over on Instagram, Relic Wolf, Amy did want to let us know April 26, 2019 is when it came out.
So that's right, because they did it a year. They did it a month early. That's right. That shocked the world. Oh my gosh. But still, a year. It feels like it's been forever.
I know, it really does. And we're getting some Some love here from Chicago, from San Diego, from Brazil. Hi,
Oh,
everyone.
awesome.
Welcome. If you are a Black Widow fan, a Black Widow novice, this is a wonderful show because we are going to be covering about 3 books that we think are really great, and they're going to help segue you into the film coming out. I believe if you're in the UK, I think it's October 28th, Amy?
Yes, and then
And
it'll
then
be
it
November 6th in the States.
in the
Fingers
States.
crossed it stays
So
on track.
everywhere else. So our new fan and friend over in Brazil. I don't know when it's coming in out there, but hopefully it's soon and we can all banter about it together. But keeping up with comic book news, something that is near and dear to my heart, DC has launched a new digital first called Deceased. From the Deceased series, I'm sorry, it's called Deceased Hope at World's End. Now, I am someone that I try to read everything that DC does. I have loved Deceased. Tom Taylor's run has been incredible. He's doing Unkillables right now as well, which is sort of like a companion piece to this. Now, Deceased at Hope's End, I believe, is takes place in between 5 and 6 because between issue 5 and issue 6 there's a really big time jump, and it was really cool. Tom Taylor did a super quick Q&A on Twitter about it, and he'd actually mentioned that he's like, I really wanted to do this story. He had it already done, but with the state of the world, he's like, I didn't want DC to have to shell out the money for basically like an anthology type story, like a story that he just had rattling around in his brain. It went to digital, and he said he wanted to do this because there's just no way that he could get all that information between 5 and 6. So he's like, I have to do a completely new comic.
It is
Um,
it's amazing how big the Deceased universe has kind of become.
right.
And it's we always joke about like when in Marvel's Secret Wars Jonathan Hickman said, wait a second, I need one more issue to tell the story,
Right.
and now all the books say 1 of 8 or 7 of 9,
Oh,
where
jeez.
they changed it like just before the end. But it's nice that DC has been super accommodating, and the fact that Tom Taylor's like, I've got this huge story, like there's more to tell here. So we're gonna inject that into a digital first
Yeah.
series.
And if you're a comic book collector, which if you're watching, I'm assuming you are, that is incredibly frustrating to have that numbering so wonky. But yes, we do. And guys, that's just some of it. There's actually quite a bit of news we've got coming out today, Amy, I
Yeah,
believe.
let's do some rapid fire. A lot of it is
Yes.
Netflix based. So if you are on the streaming services, you should have a lot to look forward to. But also, Boom Studios has announced that they're developing a new 6-issue Mega Man limited series called Mega Man Fully Charged. So if you are a fan of Mega Man, Boom Studios has gotten a handle on a lot of really exciting licenses. They've
Right.
also announced some new books that are coming out this week. We won't go into all the new stuff, but you can check online for the publisher's solicitations. They are announcing what's coming up in July and August. But yeah, if you're a fan of Boom Studios Power Rangers, if you're a fan of their Adventure Time stuff, they are doing Mega Man next.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm actually pretty excited because I don't know much about Mega Man. I can't claim to know much about him. I just know that I think the arm cannon would be great for cooking. I don't know how, but I feel like it would be. So yeah, that's gonna be really exciting. Of course, Boom Studios crushes everything they do. They're fantastic.
All right.
Oh,
Do you wanna start
oh
hit?
yes.
There's a big 3 hit list for Netflix.
There really is, yeah. So, Umbrella Academy, which the Gerard Way comic from way back when, it did have a pretty, I would say, successful first season. I think it kind of swept everybody up, and I like to say I think it kind of kicked the door open for Netflix as far as comic book properties go. They'd had some stuff previously, but I think from just reading, and of course that's all we do here at the Comics Hall. We just read, read, and read. It seems like everyone was really curious to get their hands on the comic after watching the show because
Mhm.
the story itself is so rich, it's so deep,
And
it's
it's
so deeply
so
woven.
bizarre.
Yes, and it's in a way that only someone who spent, I think, the better half of the early 2000s in eyeliner and playing a guitar could could write a comic book story. And I realize now, like, I don't want to isolate everyone. If you didn't know, Gerard Way, who writes comic, more famous and more notable, he was the lead singer for a little band called My Chemical Romance, another little indie band. But yeah, I mean, that comic's fantastic. But enough vamping. Umbrella Academy season 2 has an official release date, July 31st. They did announce their return to Netflix with a stay-at-home music video, which is a recreation of their iconic dancing from season 1, set to I Think We're Alone Now, which Amy will now sing in full for
Mm.
everyone. Just
But
kidding.
only off key so that they don't catch us for copyright. No,
Right, right.
and the thing I liked about this video recreation is it actually includes characters and actors from the show who were not in the original dance scene due
Right.
to where they were, because I believe it takes place actually in the first episode
It's like
of
the
this.
very last couple minutes of it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so they actually got to include, and I won't say which ones, but they got to include some actors who play children of the seven
Mhm.
of the academy itself who weren't included in the original dance scene. And it's very cute to get to see the people recreating their original moves, but also injecting their flavor. And Robert Sheehan, I don't know how to say his last name, Sheehan, um,
I think
dancing
Sheehan,
on
yeah.
his table, like he is Klaus to a T, but
100%.
just dancing on his table and dancing around the room with uh, a statue of some kind.
Of
Uh,
who knows what.
of who knows what. I didn't get a good look at it, but it was very, very cute.
I really loved David Castaneda, who he's you could very clearly see he has like the Starbucks toppers to keep your coffee hot. He has it
Yes,
and he just starts poking stuff because he's just he's
because he
just
doesn't have his
so
knives.
yeah, exactly. It's wonderfully done, and they all deserve all of the views. So when that comes out, again, that is going to release on July 31st. Also, the logo for season 2, like the 2 with the umbrella over it, like it's wonderful. So we're here really excited. If you're in the comments and you're excited, have you seen season 1? If not, we're all home. Watch season 1. It's really good. And then go and maybe at your local comic shop, go buy the first 30 graphic novels. No, I don't. I'm just kidding. I think there's only about
I
8
think there's only
graphics.
I think there's only 3 complete series.
Really?
There's Apocalypse Suite, which is the first.
Right.
A lot of the first season is based on Apocalypse Suite, but it also includes Hotel Dallas, which is the second volume, or not Hotel Dallas.
Hotel Dallas.
I don't think it's Hotel Dallas because I think the third one is Hotel Oblivion. I got one of them mixed up, but something Dallas is the second one that introduces the time traveling hitmen Cha Cha and Hazel, which
Oh, right,
also
right,
come
right.
into play. So the first season is a blend of books 1 and 2, and then I think they made a third volume
Okay.
recently
I
when
was
the
I was very clearly off there.
I think it's a smaller series, but it's gaining a lot of love. Also, talking about trailers, the first trailer for the Old Guard will arrive tomorrow. I
Okay.
don't know exactly what time, but you can check Image Comics and Netflix social for that. It is based on a book by Greg Rucka about immortal soldiers who have to keep immortal soldier kind of assassin people who keep coming back and back and back. And it's I actually haven't read the book, hence my not super smart description of it, but it is a very, very well loved series, pretty recent series, so it's pretty cool that it got picked up so quickly. The tagline and poster can be seen though on Netflix's accounts, and the tagline is "Forever is harder than it looks." And this one's actually a film, unless they changed it up. This one is going to be a film and not a
Right.
series, so that'll be pretty interesting because I believe the book ran a number of volumes, so
Right.
it'll be interesting to see how they condense it if they make more films. But this is going to be a feature length presentation from Netflix.
Right. I mean, there's tons of lore in that, so it's interesting to, especially now in the era of comic books, to go for a straight film, whereas most notably we're seeing a lot of these comic book adaptations becoming shows because of just the nature of comic books and that it works so well serialized. But another, there's a lot of comic book to show news. Netflix has also, again, I feel like we've said that 14 times, but Netflix has also released a trailer for The Last Days of American Crime, film based on Rick Remender and Greg. Is it Ticini? I was
Zucchini. I think it's
Zucchini.
zucchini.
Zucchini. So it's like zucchini, but the last name. So yeah, so based on Rick Remender and Greg Ticchini's graphic novel of the same name, about a man who pulls friends together for a giant heist just days before the government broadcasts a signal that will prevent people from committing crimes ever again. Yeah, this is a book that I had read, I think, a while ago. I know you had read it as well, Amy.
Mhm.
It's a really
What?
interesting book. Like
Mhm.
if you're a big fan of like Rick Remender, so he's great at that crime drama aspect. I also really love uh it's like one of my guilty pleasures. I don't know if that's a dig on anything, but I love the Purge series. Like, if you love the Purge series, this is very is going to be very in line with some of the ideologies and some of the philosophy of those things, where it's like, let's just do whatever we want,
Yeah,
because
like a high stakes uh heist film, kind of like Ocean's 11 cranked up to 11, uh
right,
set with a ticking timer of like the government's going to wipe out all crime. And so where the protagonists are the kind of people where you're like, you want to see them succeed in the thing they're doing because the government's doing a big scary thing, but also you're like,
right.
these aren't great people.
Not in the least, not
No.
at all.
Couple other news bits. DC has announced that their current Harley Quinn run is ending this August with issue 75. Marvel's
Mhm.
Empire event will begin in July. It was scheduled to originally begin in April. Um,
Right.
we've got some DC television updates. Stargirl began this week, I believe,
So good.
um, on both the CW and the DC Universe app. DC
Right.
Universe gets it on Mondays, and then the CW gets it on Tuesdays. And then, in an interesting turn of events,
Yeah.
actress Ruby Rose has left Batwoman. She will be departing between seasons 1 and 2, and they're looking to recast the role of Batwoman. So I'm going to be handing in my resume. But they haven't stated any reasons for her departure. Some people are speculating that it's the injuries she sustained, but
Right.
the reports are saying that's not the case. But it
Yeah.
was an amicable split, and we'll see how that affects the upcoming season of Batwoman on the CW.
And I know I am, and I know, where is Amy? Amy's here for me. Oh, well, I guess you're right next to me here. You are also a Brooklyn Nine-Nine fan. Actress Stephanie
Mhm.
Beatrice. She did as she quote tweeted the news of her leaving with, reads everything about Batwoman. So I
Oh
mean,
my
so
god.
there are people out there that would like love to see her. So I mean, that's just a little bit of fun news that's outside of what we wanted to talk about in general, but I think that's hilarious. And if anyone can be like a total, badass of a character, it's her. I mean, she does it.
It's very interesting because people have been clamoring recently to see both Stephanie Beatrice and Melissa Fumero join Marvel. Melissa Fumero will be voicing one of MODOK's children in the MODOK animated series.
Right.
But most notably, both actresses, a lot of fans have stated that they want both Stephanie and Melissa to play She-Hulk. Stephanie was a fan favorite for She-Hulk, as well as Alison Brie. But I have confidence. I think eventually we're all going to be part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, at the rate these things are going. So a lot of fans want to see Stephanie Beatriz do something superhero-y. So fingers crossed she gets a chance at some point, whether it is Marvel, DC, or one of the many Image titles coming to Netflix.
Would love to see it. I don't know. If we will. Also, Amy, I don't know if you've seen, again, this is something that is comic book related. So I will be the one to take the heat for this, because I just saw it updated all over social media that apparently, according to Henry Cavill and Zack Snyder, we will be getting the Snyder Cut, which people have been clamoring for, on HBO Max in 2021. Like, they
Oh my
both had
goodness.
confirmed it. Again, I read the article from Vanity, which
I
is
did not see
I
that
would say a
today.
pretty reputable source. They've been in the game a while, so that's a really, really interesting turn of events that I know yesterday they had said like something's coming tomorrow. I guess that was the news. So I mean, to get,
Wow.
Zack Snyder had been obviously pros Snyder cut, because it's his.
Yeah.
But also Henry Cavill kind of joining in on that, who had been most notably, uh, he'd been out of the Snyder Cut loop. We'd had Jason Momoa. Everyone has kind of been pushing for it, but this is big for people who've been wanting to see this.
Very interesting. I think they've just guaranteed themselves the top subscription
Yeah.
leadership. But I'm sure all those people are equally going to be enjoying Doom Patrol Season 2, which is also going to be simultaneously broadcast
Yes.
on HBO Max. I had not heard that the mythical Snyder Cut was ever going to
I
be
never thought we
released.
would see it, but yet here we are.
I hope it's as good as everybody is hoping, or I assume people are hoping it's good. I hope it fulfills every dream anyone's ever had about what the mythical Snyder Cut
Yeah,
is.
me too. I hope it solves everything that's ever happened, because everyone knows that that's what needs to happen. Because otherwise, it's like, what did I create all these 14 accounts for? But I
And
mean that.
Oh, sorry.
No, please.
No,
I
please.
was just gonna keep bantering about the
Oh,
Snyder Cut.
I was just gonna say my final piece of comic book news, which I think is important only to me, because it's a very niche intersection of my interests, is Mike Mignola. He's been doing a daily drawing series, and recently he did scary food mascots. I don't know if you guys saw the Mignola ties Planter's Peanut Man, but that was pretty scary. But he is drawing Pokemon this week. So if you want to see his fantastic and somewhat creepy take on everybody's favorite pocket monsters, he's drawn
Right.
Jigglypuff, he's drawn Gengar, I think he's done Pikachu, and Charmander. Go check out Mike Mignola's Twitter to see a Hellboy universe version of Pokemon. I
Right.
think that's super fun.
Yeah, I
So
loved his I think he did it on May 18th, the one he did of coughing. Like one of my favorite Pokemon. I don't know why. I just love coughing. And not the
take that clip out of context
I
and
know. It's one of my hobbies. But yeah, I mean it's fantastic, and Mike Mignola, that kid's going places, as we like to say here, or just me really, but I think he should draw a right Hellboy. I think he would be great for it.
All right, and before the pitchforks and torches come out, this is a good time for us to segue into our topic for the week.
Yes.
Black Widow. This week we posed to our Facebook group and on social a very perplexing question that the results of which may shock you. To quote every internet article ever, it was a very interesting quiz, and thank you for everybody who gave their thoughts and discussions. We'll actually reveal like the definitive what was decided by us and our viewers afterwards. But the question we asked you guys this week was, do you think that Black Widow is stronger when she's working with the Avengers or when she's working alone? We then provided you guys our reading list so you could read along. Hopefully some of you guys either have read these comics before or checked them out new with us to kind of help us settle this discussion. And the books that we read this week include Itsy Bitsy Spider, which is
Right.
a Marvel Knights collection, Black Widow Shields Most Wanted, and Black Widow The Finely Woven Thread. So we wanted to start this week. And we picked these as both they are good introductory, or at least if not introductory origin story type, they're very easy for people who aren't familiar with Black Widow to jump into, as well as they have thematic elements that we believe will either help inform you for the Black Widow film or just give you a better sense of what you might be able to expect, because we do have
Right.
only a limited number of trailers to go off of. In Earth 616 version of the Comics Hall, we've already seen the film and are discussing it, but this is our best conjecture. So primarily, I wanted to start with, and if you're cool with it, Paul, I wanted to start with Itsy Bitsy Spider. This is actually a collection of two limited series that ran 3 issues that were both titled Black Widow, but they both deal very heavily with different Black Widows. As you guys may have seen from the trailers or the posters or the promotional materials, a character is going to be introduced named Yelena Belova. And for people who know the lore of Black Widow, she is another Black Widow, because Black Widow is not necessarily someone's sole title. It is a kind of agent status when you reach graduation of the Red Room. If you live long enough to make it to graduation, you are one of the Black Widow operatives. So Itsy Bitsy Spider has, as I mentioned, 2 limited series. One written by Devin Grayson with art by J.G. Jones, and then one that was written by Grayson and Greg Rucka of last week's Wonder Woman show fame. He just keeps coming. We should just do Greg Rucka shows all the time.
I think so. Yeah, I'd
and
be fine with that.
yeah, and I mean, if we cover the old guard, that's more Greg Rucka. But Scott Hampton did the art for that one.
Right.
So this one's really interesting because it's not the first appearance of Yelena. She was introduced in the Inhumans in 1999. But this is during the era of Marvel Knights. Early 2000s, Marvel had actually filed for bankruptcy, and so Joe Quesada was kind of doing this imprint of standalone stories with some of Marvel's more gritty and down-to-earth characters, including Daredevil, the Punisher, Black Panther, Black Widow. There was even some Captain America. So if you see the Marvel Knights tag, that's what that is. Marvel Knights also just celebrated, I believe, its 20th anniversary last year. So that's pretty cool. This one's a great story if you're kind of looking to get the dynamic between Yelena and Natasha, because throughout their relationship. They act like sisters, but they're also enemies. They are graduates of the same program in the way that you might see your old college friends and go, you either like don't want to talk to them because they bring up bad memories, or so theirs is a complicated web, if you
Right.
will. Allow me to make and begin the terrible jokes.
Fun one.
But yeah, these are two quintessential espionage stories, and they really set up a lot of the relationship. And mostly Natasha's goal of the relationship is, and as you'll see throughout all the stories we mentioned,
Right.
her past is very checkered. It's very dark,
Yes.
and she never wants anyone to have to go through what she went through. But unfortunately, we've got Yelena, who's the first Black Widow Red Room graduate to actually score higher than Natasha in the testing. So she believes there's a bit of competition between them, where Natasha says, "No, you should quit because I don't want you to endure the same things that I've endured."
Mm,
Yelena says, "You want me to quit because you want to be number one." Um, Now, we did have a request for someone to warn JJ Joe in YouTube doesn't want spoilers for the trailer, so I'll give you a hot second. But there's a very interesting note in the, I believe it's the final trailer for Black Widow.
right.
Um, 3, 2, 1. There's a scene where Yelena is strapped to a gurney. And if you look very carefully at Florence Pugh's face, there's kind of a weird outline around her scalp that goes down around her chin.
Oh, right.
And in Itsy Bitsy Spider, there is a storyline in which Natasha and Yelena swap faces. Now I don't know if they'll do that in the cinematic
What?
universe. Yeah, there's a face off. There's a face off. I know you didn't get to that part,
Yes,
Paul.
I didn't get to Itsy Bitsy Spider, but we've got the other 2 books we covered, guys. I did read those, I promise.
Yes. So there is a bit of a face off story, but it's again, it's part of Natasha's way of showing her, you don't want to be me, you don't want to be the Black Widow, because Yelena gets attacked as
Mm,
Natasha. Daredevil's also in the story. I highly recommend it. It's kind of the perfect primer for their relationship, but the fans picked up on the fact that it looks like there might be some facial reconstructive surgery going on in the film, and it would be very interesting to see if they did bring that in. Very interesting to see how long it lasts, because we've already got Skrulls in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and then the potential of Shield or the Red Room being able to perform successful facial swaps opens up a whole other can of worms for these characters.
right. And Amy, over in this is let me see, we've got 2 Facebook windows open. So over on our Facebook page at Sideshow Collectibles, Michael Lampkin said he just dug out this miniseries the other day. I'm assuming in Reddit. So Michael, let us know, because so far as I know, you and Amy are the ones who've read it in this stream. I will read it because it's definitely something that it seems incredible. But I do love, a character like you were saying, that I think she's even mentioned multiple times in, like, at least the MCU, which people are most familiar with her character in, that she's got, is it, I think, red in her ledger,
Yeah,
and she can't wipe
she
it.
is
And
she has debts that she owes or feels that
yes,
she owes.
yeah,
And
and who doesn't love a good face-off story, right? I mean,
oh, yeah, maybe the Black Widow movie is a secret vehicle for just the modern gender swapped reboot of Face Off.
yes, Nick Cage is Black Widow. We're casting it now. I'm casting it now.
Oh no. Oh,
Yeah,
that's even worse.
or John Travolta, either whoever's free.
Ooh. But yes, highly recommend this book if you're looking for the kind of quintessential who the heck is this character that we're going to be seeing in the film.
Right.
And as we will now move off of this book, it shows and introduces the long running thread of Natasha believes very strongly that no one should have to go through what she went through, which was the torture and the conditioning. And she will do just about anything to fight against that. But you'll see that the Red Room is always coming back. So,
Yeah.
next up on our list, we checked out The Finely Woven Thread. I always call it A, but it's The Finely
Right.
Woven Thread by Nathan Edmondson and Phil Noto.
Yes.
This one came out, I want to say, in like 2014, and is one of the
Yeah.
longer running Black Widow titles. And I believe Phil Noto was on the book for most of the whole thing. It had the rare privilege of not really switching up artists a lot, which really this is one of the most atmospheric Black Widow books, I think.
Right.
Now, Paul, what were your first impressions? Because this was actually my first Black Widow series that I read. I have all the issues in a box somewhere.
So I really thought, I mean, just being a comic book nerd, you know enough about certain characters, but you don't know nearly I mean, you don't know nearly what you need to know to say I understand this character. And I think Edmondson uh, really does a great job in sort of dealing with her character with inner monologue. And that's something that I really, really loved in that, you know, Natasha is someone who says little but does a lot. And when she does talk, it's for a reason. And I love that almost all of the dialogue that we get in this comic in the finely woven thread is it's inner monologue. It's her talking to herself and when she does talk, to herself, it's kind of in this perfectly balanced exposition in that you would think someone of her caliber would be able to do. And her just kind of saying like, "Oh, this is boring." Like another just, there like I love that there's a scene where again, I'll do my best, we'll do our best to not spoil everything, but
These
there
oh, and for
are
the record, we did read these on Comixology. All 3 of these volumes are
yes.
available currently with Comixology Unlimited, so if you have that subscription service, you can check these out and
Yeah.
many more. But it was a fantastic way to just have all of those books ready to roll.
Right.
Continue.
No, and no, that's great because yeah, we really want more so than anything. What we love to accomplish on the show is just read, just read as much as you can whenever you can. And these are great stories about an amazing, incredible character who's so important to the MCU. But I love that in the story, not only is Phil Noto one of my favorite artists, I love like I pulled up some of the art. It's going to be hard, guys, because I'm laying on all these comics here to see. But oh,
We do have
thank you.
one panel that is, "This is what I am now, and you'll never know who I was before."
Right.
And there's another line that I didn't pull the panel for, but in her kind of opening exposition, she says, "No one will ever know what my story is," which makes it fascinating that we have so many Black Widow serieses, but we'll never know what Natasha's story is. There can be so many versions, but you just don't know which version is truly Natasha.
I mean, and I love, I'm flipping through, some of the panels here, as well, but I love uh, how often Natasha really, really does not wanna utilize, these fine folk above me, because she's noted as an Avenger, and so, when they wanna drop some of these, when they want to solve problems, they're like, just call in the Avengers. And she's like, you don't understand that this does not require y- this doesn't require what you think it requires. It requires more of a slow and steady pace. A you know it requires a spy. And
Mhm.
I do love one of my favorite things before that I read from this comic is that she calls Tony Stark, and I know Amy has some words on Tony Stark in relation to Natasha, which we will get to, but she
Mhm.
calls him a philanthropot, and that is my favorite description of Mr. Tony Stark, Iron Man, is him being a philanthropot because that is fantastic.
Yeah, it's
And
a very elegant, it's slightly snide and rude of her, but also, like, that's what he is.
right,
Um,
and
Tim
before
oh, sorry, Tim
oh,
R. from YouTube noted, though, she's not always alone. It's notable that this series introduced her kitty, Liho, so she does have a cat in this
oh,
series, which is
yes.
interesting to see her kind of begrudgingly accept it. One of my favorite relationships is the pet and the person who desperately didn't want a pet but loves that pet so much, and so we do get Natasha's cat, Liho, in this
Oh,
book.
right, and we've got, Bob of Skull over on Instagram Live. He says he loves the Edmondson Noto series. That's great. I mean, they're like, Amy had said, this is one of the longest running Black Widow series, so it's good to know that people are reading it and they love it. I mean, honestly, I'm not super familiar with Edmondson's other work, but I know Phil Noto, and I love Noto, so I was like this could be one of those almost like one of the X-Men books maybe that we were reading that is it's all art, no, and I would
Yes.
it's if it's Phil Noto, I'll take care of it.
Well, you
And I'll read it.
noted you noted an important distinction between this and then Shield's Most Wanted, which is another not as long running, but these are two of the most highly acclaimed of the Black Widow series that are known for their art, all-star art team with a strong writer to back. But
Right.
The finely woven thread really gives you a lot of that internal monologue
Yeah.
where Shield's Most Wanted gets rid of all of that for the sake of action. So you get to linger in Natasha's head. You get to see what she's thinking, which is important in espionage stories because the external is always so quiet. But if you leave the external quiet, you're not getting the dialogue. You're just seeing the movements and that idea that she wants to be unknowable. The first couple of issues start you off with like individual espionage adventures, kind of like a global James Bond type
Right.
thing until it opens up into the larger threat towards the end of the volume. But I love because Noto does his own coloring and it's very soft. There's something when he does hard lines, it's really cool to notice because it's usually like if it's underwater or someone's in darkness. But his art is very soft and there's one of my favorite scenes where you notice the color is she's on a plane with Maria Hill kind of after a mission and they're
Oh, right.
recouping and the red of her so the airplane interior is blue but the red of her hair is soft and almost diffusing as if it were like a halo like the
Hmm.
the red doesn't stay in the lines of where it should be and so your eye is drawn directly to the red and we were talking about the spider itself the black
I
widow
think it's
spider
this one here, right?
I think it's that one. I think there's another panel that's more blue. I don't know if it's in that scene or not, but it's just the idea that I mean that's a good example because he also
Right.
does wash out the backgrounds a lot to make her red hair stand out. But if you were to encounter a black widow spider yourself, most of the time you can't tell that it's a black widow until you see the red on the underside. And by
Hmm.
the time you see the red on the underside, you are way too close. You might be in danger and that's how it is with Natasha is
Right.
the red is the warning that she's on the case.
Right. And guys, again, just to remind you guys all, welcome to the Comics Hall. We're talking all things Black Widow, basically just to allow you all to kind of go into the Black Widow film for the MCU a little more prepared. And we're also, we are a comic book show. We want to get you all prepped via comic books. And so not only are we talking all things Black Widow, we're talking 3 miniseries and an ongoing. But we have a giveaway for the quarter scale Infinity Gauntlet by your good friends over at Hot Toys, and you need a secret word for that. And I'll tell you it. I don't even need to tell you. I can just show you. Secret code word is the snap. It's all capitalized together. It's THESNAP. Now, write that down. Hold on to that because what I'm going to do a little bit later. I say me, but we have the wonderful Madison who helps us out all here. She's going to drop a link later. Now, when you follow that link and you enter that code word, it gives you 1,000 extra entries to be able to win the quarter scale nano gauntlet. So again, code word is the snap. THESNAP. Both words together, all capitalized.
Practice your espionage skills right here. You've got the secret code word. Now
You sure do, yeah.
we'll send you to the drop site at the end of this episode.
We will, yes.
Michael Lamkin on Facebook says that it's almost like the Joker, in reference to Black Widow saying "You'll never know my story."
Right,
It's almost like the Joker saying, "Let me tell you how I got these scars." Like the
right.
story can change, and only the person knows. And then I like to imagine like how many times do you have to lie about the story before you don't remember what the story is either? So it's like we'll never quite get Natasha's definitive experience. Now he asks as well, do you prefer Black Widow with the Avengers or her old school interactions with Daredevil? So interestingly enough, we did ask a similar version of that question in our Facebook group. We
Mhm.
asked, do we think that Black Widow is stronger on her own or stronger with the Avengers? But in her interactions, I personally prefer her interactions with not just Daredevil, but there's a couple of individual people who also show up in the Finely Woven thread and
Right,
the continuing series. She has great interactions with Tony Stark. She has great interactions with Daredevil, great interactions with the Winter Soldier, and then great interactions with Hawkeye. And
right,
each of them have a very different dynamic that I love. And I know we didn't get as far to get to the Winter Soldier or Daredevil issues, but we know that Daredevil is drawn to dangerous women and especially spies and like assassins like Elektra who can control their heartbeat and they're mysterious to him. I love her interactions with Matt Murdock so much. Um, she and Bucky have that relationship where they've both been brainwashed in a way by Russian operatives and they're
right.
trying to atone for their past sins. she and Hawkeye both famously started as Iron Man villains, and of course, then she has that antagonistic relationship with Iron Man, where she represents the Cold War era technology scare, the Russians versus his progressive technology. And
Right.
so I love seeing how that's evolved over the years. Now, the Tony Stark relationship comes up a little bit in the Finely Woven Thread, but it comes up especially in Shield's Most Wanted, and I think this is a good place to kind of
Yeah.
transition.
And
But
I'm sorry, and I was gonna say right before we transition again, because we do have people jumping in and out, I want to remind everyone for a chance to win the quarter scale nano gauntlet by our good friends over at Hot Toys again. We are going to be dropping a link a little bit later. We did drop the code word, so if you would like a chance to win the quarter scale nano gauntlet, please go ahead and rewind the stream a little bit later. You can get that code word, and then you can follow that link a little bit later. I have a bad habit of saying, in order to win, we're not just giving them away like at the bottom of like Rice Krispies where you get like that toy, or like what's the other one,
Cracker Jacks.
Cracker Jacks. Thank you. I was gonna say Apple Jacks, which are also delicious, but at like the bottom of Cracker Jacks. So yeah, we're not sending out cereal anymore, I think. But yeah, so for a chance to win the quarter scale nano gauntlet, you can go ahead and follow the link that Madison will drop at the end of the show. Enter that code word. That's 1,000 extra entries to be able to have a chance to win that there. But yes, can we please talk about
Yes.
the next one there, because this
So
is what I
going
loved.
yeah, moving from the Finely Woven Thread, which is it's again a quintessential spy story, but it's so introspective and actually one of the more not dense but heavier with content. Jumping over to Shield's Most Wanted, one of the most breathtaking and exhilarating comics that you will read through so quickly and then read again because you can't believe that all the action just whipped through. This is the all-star team of Mark Waid, Chris Somney, and then Matt Wilson on colors. And this book is one of Marvel's biggest triumphs of the last 5 years. And I don't exaggerate. And I mean, it's for me, it's up there with Thor in terms of books that I just adore. It is a short and sweet 12-issue series. I
Yeah.
believe both halves of the series are available on Comixology Unlimited. We read the first half of it, but it is thrilling. It leaves you breathless because, unlike the Finely Woven Thread, this book eschews a lot of the internal spy movie dialogue and just gives you the external action. So you
Right.
don't get to hear a lot of the internal premeditated thoughts before things go into hyperdrive and Natasha kicks the throttle, and then suddenly you're on a motorcycle chase or you're leaping out of the shield helicarrier after the bombs you just threw behind you explode while you're like several miles into the air. I think we pulled the panel of the
Oh,
helicarrier.
there
That
it
is
is.
the end of the cold open for the first issue. She's running down a hallway, throw some
Yep.
bombs, and she's jumping. And now there have been some similar shots in the movie trailer for this one as well. You see Natasha running down a hall that
Mhm.
is exploding. My fingers crossed we get that hyper zoomed out shot while she falls dramatically
Yeah, I mean,
down.
it's fantastic. I mean, as soon as it starts, I pulled it up. I mean, as soon as the comic starts itself, again, there's not much text in here, but I have it zoomed in. Oh, that's terrible. But as soon as it starts, she's fighting her way out. Like, I mean, there's no, saw like you said, it's a cold open, but I mean, there's nothing cold about it. I mean, she is like warming up, and it's funny because in my head I'm thinking she already knows where she's going and what she's doing because I guess kind of spoiler, she's on a shield helicarrier if you couldn't tell by the other photo. So
And
she
the book is Shield's Most Wanted, so she's clearly
so
pissed off the wrong people.
right, exactly. But yeah, I mean, that is, you had said that's the first one I read. It's the first one you had recommended that I read. And yeah, I mean, it's incredibly exhilarating, like you said, from start to finish. And then you're like, oh, is that 6 issues already? Do I have to pick up the next trade? And it starts, it ties together a thread, and then when you take a step back, you're like, wow, this thread is much longer than I thought it was going to be. And then there's so much more story that can, come out of that. I love it.
Yes, it's so much fun, and it's actually a perfect example. So this book dives a lot into Natasha's history with the Red Room. It actually introduces some new antagonists from the Red Room that I find actually rather compelling, including the Recluse, because they love their spider themed names. Um,
Right.
but it's one of those things where Natasha, and it's kind of the quintessential, like, you don't know if she's the double agent or not, but Natasha is working on a mission that she cannot tell Shield what she is doing. So she has to be the bad guy, and
Right.
she gets on Maria Hill's S list, and the other Avengers are like, they know that she's in trouble. I mean, she even does meet up with Tony Stark, who has been sent to kind of track her. But the scene turns around quickly as she knows that Tony is going to be the one to try to stop her, so she knocks him out first. And they bring up he I love the scene with him because he brings up the time that he's like Natasha, I know you.
Right.
You've been bad. You corrupted Hawkeye, which is a nice callback. She first appeared, I believe, Tales of Suspense 52.
Mhm.
You got to check it out. Love her classic blue costume. It's ridiculous, but it is quintessential. Which is my word of the day, I guess. It is the classic Iron Man is technology, and she's the Cold War villain. But in her second appearance with Hawkeye, which I believe is Tales of Suspense 57, he is a villain as well, and she's working with him, and that kind of introduces their like romantic history. But
Right.
you see that Tony Stark has never quite gotten over, like, you used to be my villain, which is
Yeah, there's
it's
definitely still some animosity that has not and will never leave.
yeah, but it's such a fascinating dynamic. But it's one of those stories where she can't tell anyone what she's doing because they would try to help or it would be compromised. So she is willing to put herself on the line. She is willing to lie to her friends. She is willing
Right.
to hurt people because she needs to do what she thinks is best. And
Mhm.
again, it's one of those stories of preventing what happened to her as a child from ever happening to anyone else.
And what I love so much, not only about Shield's Most Wanted, but what I love about, I think from all of the Black Widow stories I've gathered so far, is the fact that her story and her location changes so fast. You know,
Hmm.
one minute she's at a secret graveyard, and the next minute she's jetting off to Paris under one of her many aliases because that's just what the mission is. And I think this can be a soft segue while we're wrapping up here into our question. In that I find that so much of what she accomplishes and what she brings to the Marvel catalog is it. I mean, I don't know many other characters that can do what she does, and that it's like I believe, unfortunately, with the Edmondson Noto book, um, where she says it, but again, it might be this one. I read all of them so back to back, but she says one of the many things that makes Black Widow is that she fits in everywhere. And
I
in
think
order
that was
to
the Noto Edmondson book.
it's Noto and Edmondson, but in order to fit in everywhere, you have to belong to nowhere. And so that's almost Black Widow to a T there.
Hmm.
Her character, I mean, there's just so many scenes where she's in disguise. At one point, she's a fly. That's really cool. There's a lot of opportunities, I think, not only in the MCU coming up, but in just this solo movie to really dig and show off that espionage, that spy, which we got a little bit in Winter Soldier of like that style. But I think this movie that's the Black Widow film that's coming up, it allows, us to really see, like, who she is and what she is, and these 3 comics that we've talked about, or these 3 arcs, if you will, really, really explore that, I mean, so well,
Hmm.
especially in Shield's Most Wanted, that at one point, she gets done what has to be done.
Yes. Um, I also do think it's interesting because I have my opinion on I do believe she is stronger as a character alone. But I didn't give you any stories in which she's working with her teammates.
Yeah.
We only decided on books that she is ostensibly working solo. A couple of her
Mhm.
allies will have a guest spot. But I think these are the truest to her character. Tim R in YouTube says obligatory Marjorie Liu name of the rose recommendation. Absolutely, that was on our
Yes.
list before we had to cut it for some of the more modern stories. But name of the rose, deadly origin, even the things they say about her, those are all available on Comixology. Highly recommended. Jody Hauser also recently did Web of Black Widow, and then there is a another. It gets confusing because most of these books are just titled Black Widow, but there was
Right.
a 5-issue miniseries by the Soska sisters where she is in Madripoor doing more espionage. So sometimes she's in one specific place and the
Right.
mission is long. Sometimes she's globetrotting everywhere. But you guys on our Facebook Let Your Geek Sideshow group, 49 people said that she's stronger with the Avengers. By far the large percentage. I mean, I'd say, I'm not a math wizard, but I'd say about 60% of the votes. You guys said she's
Yeah.
stronger with the Avengers. However, all the comments are in favor of why she's better alone.
Right.
Sam Hayes says she's stronger alone because the bad guys don't have to be on a divine level to pose a threat. Black Widow's best work is taking out middle tier threats before they amass the power that needs the whole team. Steve Bunch said alone or with Daredevil. And
Right.
then B. Alex Thompson said working alone. With the team, she has to operate on the up and up. Alone, she can use the whole spectrum of her abilities, and a lot of that can get pretty ugly with crossing some serious moral lines. I think that's the exact kind of what we were trying to get at with these books we chose today, and
Right.
what I hope that her solo film will address, because fans have waited so long for the solo film, and clearly even to come out after Captain Marvel, Marvel had a specific plan and a reason why they were only going to show us Black Widow at a certain moment, and now we're going to get to see her between Civil War and Infinity War.
Infinity War, yeah.
Yeah, and it's, what is she doing? She's going back to confront her past. Who are these people from her past? And it looks like an espionage thriller that is what her character deserves, while she's not beholden to Tony Stark calling her and going, hey, like, did you kill this guy? Because you probably shouldn't.
Like, let's avoid killing. But before we, before we started prepping for the show, me and Amy thought up this question. And so, initially, before we put it out to the masses, we were talking about it. And my immediate answer, because I'm much more familiar with her in the Avengers than her by herself was with the Avengers, of course. And then Amy said one thing that holds true now is that the Avengers hold her back. And they do. I will 100% attest to that, because what we've seen in a lot of these comics is she's not just, I'm sorry, in her single stories there, she isn't, just someone who's providing, support and relief and a certain level of planning that she really uses in the Avengers. She's more ground level with like Hawkeye, and usually seems to be paired up with Hawkeye, with Captain America, whatever their operation may be. She might, you can find her there. But in this, she is, she gets done what has to be done. I was saying, and Noto, or in one of the arcs again, anyway, these evolve kind of. I think it's Shield Most Wanted, where she's doing something. She's around the Red Room again, and she shoots some dude in the head.
Yes, that was Shield's Most Wanted.
Yes, and that is what has to be done, and I wholeheartedly, agree now that she is so much stronger, and she is Black Widow. She is the most Black Widow when she's by herself,
The
because
Avengers hold her back because they hold her up. They hold her to a higher
Right.
standard that she doesn't believe that she can operate on.
Right. I mean, with you have a guy, dressed like the American flag that doesn't even curse. So, I don't think he would necessarily agree with everything that she that she does get done in a lot of in a lot of these comics. But like, someone had said, and that was a great answer, that she takes out these middle tier threats before they amass. And I love that. I love that, she again gets done what has to be done, and she does it in and out. I mean, you don't even know she's there and you're gone.
And I think the best part is she'll do what it takes, including lying to people,
Right.
making herself look bad, because she doesn't care what other people think. She cares about doing ostensibly the most good, even though if the good doesn't always look good, or it's somewhat morally dubious. But I
Right.
think my mug said it best. She says, I can take care of myself, thank you. It's
Yeah.
one of those things where she's, to end kind of on a famous quote that wasn't from any of the volumes we picked, she is her own woman, first, last, and always.
Right.
And that is the summation of her character. Now,
Exactly.
if you guys read nothing else from this show, you have to read Shield's Most Wanted, just because
Incredible.
it is absolutely breathtaking. It's what happens when a smart writer writes really well, but knows enough about the artist to say that the smartest writing is letting the art do all the work.
Do all the talking.
All of the dialogue is exactly like, it's like surgically precise. It's just what you need to get enough of the story. There's no
Right.
inner monologue, and it's amazing. There's cool guest characters. But I highly recommend, if you're looking to learn more about Yelena Belova, check out the Itsy Bitsy Spider collection. Check out what you can on Marvel's website or Comixology, and then look ahead for Kelly Thompson's coming Black Widow series. It was delayed because
I'm
of
excited for
the
that now.
shipment holds,
Yeah.
but it should be coming back in June or July as well, and that's going to be really exciting. And then that'll get you all hyped up for the movie.
Oh yeah, if you're not hyped up now, you will be once the once that Kelly Thompson book comes out. That's going to be great. And just so you guys know, Madison has dropped the link everywhere for everyone in order to have a chance to win the quarter scale nano gauntlet. Again, I did drop a secret code word earlier that will get you 1,000 extra entries. So that's 1,000% better odds. I'm not a math scientist. Don't check me on that math. But she has dropped that everywhere again, guys. And then for our friends over on Instagram, in order for you to have a chance to win the quarter scale nano gauntlet, the link that you can follow is side.show/win nano G. That's WINNANOG. That's side.show win nano G. When I saw the code, I thought it said like win an OG, and I was like, no, an OG, like, oh, an OG gauntlet maybe, but it's win nano G, side.show/win a nano G.
I love that. Win an OG.
Yep. I'm
All
not
right.
convinced I know how to read. I've just memorized a lot of words.
Operatives, take the code word we've given you, take the intel we've given you, go to the drop site and have fun, read your comics, get ready for Black Widow or whatever else that you're checking out this week. Thank you guys so much for joining us for another episode of the Comics Hall. We will see you again next Wednesday. We don't know what we're doing yet, but keep tuned to our social and the Let Your Geek Sideshow Facebook group for our reading list and our question of the week.
Yeah.
Again, thanks for joining us. I'm Amy.
I'm Paul.
And this has been the Comics Hall.
Comics Hall. Right on time.
Is there an echo in here?
Echo. Oh man, I was really fighting the urge to have my puppy was running around and she was like nipping at my feet.
Oh.
I was like, be cool.